Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday, every Tuesday from 3 to 4. I'm your host, Maggie B, and today we have a very special guest, Attorney Donal McRoberts from Willumsen Law Firm, PC. Yes, welcome.
Well, Mari, thank you very much for having me here today. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Not only that, let me tell you why we have this special guest, this attorney. We do partner up and do joint venture with a lot of cases with you guys. I know most of the time we talk about personal injury, and this is a form, a little added form and topic of personal injury. We're talking about dog bite cases.
Dog bite cases.
Exactly. So you're very knowledgeable. That's what you pretty much focus on. You also probably do other personal injury, but the focus is on dog bite, correct?
Mari, you have it absolutely correct. You know, a minute ago you were talking about partnerships, and one of the great things that D. Miller has offered us here at Willumsen Law Firm and myself is the opportunity to work with a great firm like yours. You know, you touch a lot of clients across the state and across the nation, and you know, we're just so fortunate to be able to have this partnership. And, you know, one of the things when you have it's kind of like a doctor, right? You have a general family doctor, but sometimes you need a specialist, right? Sometimes your toe hurts. And so that's kind of where I come in, and our firm, Willumsen Law Firm, is, you know, we specialize in dog bite cases. So when somebody's been injured by a dog, however that injury might come about, you might need a specialist, someone to call when you don't know what to do. Yeah. And so that's something that we specialize at our firm, is in injuries caused by dogs.
Okay, so yeah, just like you mentioned, we are nationwide. We do have a lot of these type of cases, not only here in Houston, Texas, which is our principal location, but also nationwide, which you also specialize in the dog bite.
Correct.
So now I want just you guys to meet this awesome attorney. I want you to let our viewers know a little bit about yourself, where you come from, where you went to school. Now we know your specialty background, but just getting to know you a little bit more. How many years have you been practicing? All that good stuff.
All that good stuff. Okay. Well, I've been doing personal injury for about 8 years. Wow. I went to the University of Texas at Austin for my undergrad. After that, I came back to Houston, and I went to South Texas College of Law. When I graduated from South Texas, I did a little bit of family law, did a little bit of criminal law, and then found myself doing personal injury and found it to be a real calling. And I've stuck with it for about the last 8 years, and I've been doing dog bites for about 6 or so.
Awesome.
Specializing in dog bites about 6.
Wow, that's good to hear. You actually did different parts of law as well, which I'm pretty sure they were all different, huh?
Well, everything is absolutely different.
Yeah.
Everything is absolutely different. And, you know, it's, you don't always know what you want, right, when you get out of law school. Right. Sometimes it takes a little while to work in different parts of the law. Right. To figure out what you're good at, what you like, and what you have a calling for.
Right.
You know, everybody has their specialties, and mine just happened to be dog bites.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that passion that you have and that calling. But you're right. It's all about refining a little bit more and tweaking as you're a little bit more seasoned attorney. And now you're in your zone.
I'm in my zone.
You're in your zone. So that's awesome. So I want to open up those lines of communication for you guys to ask any questions to the attorney, Donal McRoberts, here with us on Talk to Me Tuesday. So any questions that you guys may have, specifically dog bite. This is a very awesome topic because a lot of people don't think that, okay, I got bit by a dog, I have a case, I should call an attorney. There's a lot of questions.
Well, Mari, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of questions, and you bring up a good point. You keep referring to a dog bite. And there's a lot of different ways that people can actually be injured by a dog. It doesn't always require a bite specifically. Sometimes you go over to grandma's house and her dog is excited and jumps on you and knocks you down. Dog didn't bite you, but you fell and you hurt yourself. You know, what do you do, right? Those happen all the time, you know? So sometimes you find yourself, clients find themselves injured because of a dog, but not necessarily because of a bite. And so a lot of times you can have back injuries, you can have brain injuries that don't necessarily come from a bite, but because a dog is excited and knocks somebody down, or maybe a dog scratches you. For example, if you're a little kid and you get scratched on the face, you know, and it leaves a scar, that can be pretty traumatic.
Right.
And, you know, nobody wants to grow up with scars on their face because of that kind of, you know, behavior from a dog. So, you know, it's a wide variety of injuries that can happen because of an out of control dog.
Right.
Essentially, that's what it is.
And you bring up a good point, because I know naturally we say, and I know you guys, those of you guys that have watched this show, I've said dog bite, we do dog bites, but you just brought a little bit more awareness to my eyes as well, that it's not just a dog bite, but it could be just injuries from a dog is probably a better way to put it, huh?
That's an absolutely perfect way to put it. Injuries from a dog caused by a dog.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So it is a bigger picture. It's not just what you see, either a scar or penetration on like the muscle, but it can also be knocking someone down and creating a traumatic brain injury. I know we really support the movement of traumatic brain injury, and you guys have heard me speak about it several times. And I know it has to be something you know a lot about and are passionate about because of your clients in certain scenarios that play itself out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely right. I mean, the traumatic brain injury is it's life-changing, and I know that, Dee Miller, I know y'all specialize in TBI, traumatic brain injury type cases, and that's something that is it's impactful. It changes someone's life, it changes who they are.
Right. And some people might not even know that they have a traumatic brain injury is what's sad. Some of it might be a little delayed as well, and it might not be present at the time of the accident or incident.
You're absolutely right. A lot of times we do find that sometimes the diagnosis of a traumatic brain injury or even a mild traumatic brain injury can happen a year and a half later, when most people think, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, but I have a reoccurring headache, or I have some reoccurring dizziness or some light sensitivity, and they're not really sure what's going on. And so, but a year and a half later, they might find out that, hey, because of that, when I fell and hit my head, when this dog came after me, that's why I'm still having these problems. And so, a lot of times you have to look back, and sometimes that's what you find.
Right. And although you guys may not know those symptoms, I know here at Dee Miller & Associates, as well as Willumsen Law Firm, PC, we do specialize in hearing those symptoms and recognizing certain things, whether they happen now or they happen later. We constantly have someone on the phone hearing how their feeling is, how their injuries are, etc.
Right.
So we can hopefully catch it one way or another.
Absolutely. Well, it all comes down to communicating with your clients, right? You develop relationships with them. You need to know what's going on in their lives. We develop a unique relationship with our clients where it's a trusting relationship. It's sometimes you learn, all kinds of information about your clients, but it's one that's it's a special relationship, and it requires getting to know people and talking to them. And so that constant communication, like you were mentioning, is critically important.
Right. But you know what? At the same time, it's also very rewarding.
Very rewarding.
Very rewarding to see some of the outcomes, and you can see from them going at a low place to, wow, being able just to go back to life and going back to a normal state of life, right?
That's the goal.
That is the goal.
That's always the goal.
For sure. So I want to go ahead and open up those lines of communication for you guys. I know I have a question right now. This is Josefina is asking a question. So all of you guys that have those dog bite questions, load them up. Let's give them some questions to answer today.
Let's give them some questions. All right, Josefina, thanks for giving me the first question today.
Yes, so thank you, Josefina. And she's saying, what if the dog owner was not present when the dog bite occurred?
Josefina, that's a great question. That's a common situation. Sometimes the dog gets out of the house and the dog owner is not home. What happens? Provided there is a dog owner, because that's obviously the first and most important thing, that there's a dog owner. It's not just a stray dog. But in that context where you have a dog owner, the dog owner is still responsible and still required to make sure that the dog is properly cared for, properly restrained, and properly locked away, for better terminology. But at the end of the day, if you have a dog, it's absolutely your responsibility to maintain direct physical control. Every county across the state of Texas has a leash law, which requires that the owner be present with their dog and keep them on a leash. If for whatever reason the dog gets out and gets loose off the owner's property, it's still the owner's responsibility, and the owner is still required to be responsible for that dog if anything happens.
Wow. So that is a great question, Josefina. I know that just raises more questions. So now whenever an individual goes and buys a dog, there's more to it. They kind of need to know, they're not just thinking of their family, their dog, but also the care of being around others and protecting others. It's deeper now.
It's absolutely true and correct.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point. It's a dog has a mind of its own, and the owner's responsible for maintaining that dog. And if a dog gets out and does something, well, it's just like if your child gets out and does something, who are they going to look to?
Yeah.
Mom and dad.
Right.
Same thing with the dog. They're going to look to the owners, mom and dad.
Well, this also brings awareness to not if you've been bit by a dog or an injury caused from a dog, but also dog owners. I think this is very enlightening for if anybody is watching right now that has dogs. It's great to hear these things to kind of bring back what should you do in this case. Right. So that's awesome. We do have some live comments here coming from Norma Ventura, Michelle LaFleur, and Angie's Thrifty Boutique. All of them a thumbs up for you. Wow, you're already killing it. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching. I want to thank all of you viewers that are watching right now, liking it and sharing it. The more you share, the better it is, because the more lives we get to affect. So sharing is super important.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. And that way we can get these messages across. So I want to thank all of you guys for that as well. So I'm going to move on to the next question. This is Jerry. And I'm not sure what this means, so you're going to educate me today. What is the one bite rule?
Good question. Great question. There's a lot of confusion. What's the one bite rule? When does it apply? How does it work? What does it mean? In Texas, we have a different system as far as how causes of action, right? When something happens to somebody, how do we get justice? What do we do? So in a situation where a dog has never bitten before, has never shown any kind of dangerous propensities, but all of a sudden something happens one day, what do? We can't just walk away and let that person go on with their injuries, right? That's not the American system of justice. And so we have a specific cause of action, negligent handling of an animal. That's one particular situation. Now, another situation is when the owner knows that this particular dog is dangerous, has bitten before, has knocked somebody down before, has scratched somebody before, likes to jump and claw and scratch and bark, and might be a little out of control, right? And the owner knows this. And this dog has done something before, and well, the dog does something again, right? Once that dog does something again, the second time, that's when the one bite rule comes into effect. And really what that means is, when is the owner absolutely responsible, right? So you have one situation where the owner had no idea. You have one situation where the owner had an idea. It wouldn't be fair to make this owner, who had no idea, absolutely responsible if he had no idea. Would you agree?
Right.
That's kind of the basis of the one bite rule, Mari. So essentially, if the owner has an idea that this dog has done something in the past that has again caused an injury to someone, that owner is going to be automatically responsible.
Well, let me ask you this. How is that, how do you prove that? Like, an owner can say, oh, I've never heard of that before. They've never done that, but they really did. Like, how do you get to prove that?
Well, it's difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't want to tell the truth.
Right.
Especially when it's their dog. Couldn't be my dog. I love my dog. He sits with me on the couch every night. He could never do this.
Yeah.
That's what I hear a lot. And that's kind of where our specialty has come from and what we do. We specialize in working the case a certain way so that we develop the evidence and information that we need to be able to prove that this owner probably knew that this was going to happen. And that's kind of why, having a lawyer on your side when you've been injured by a dog helps, because we know what to look for. We know how to develop that evidence to prove the unprovable, essentially.
Right.
To help injured people.
A specialty lawyer.
A specialty lawyer. Yes,
that has been established.
A specialty lawyer.
Well, that was a great question, Jerry. I want to thank you for that question. I also want to, any of you guys wanting a little bit more information, or if we can get a hold of you guys, that phone number is going to be below, that 713-850-8600. So you guys can also give us a call. We can get you in touch with Attorney Donal McRoberts as well. We have a live question. This is from Angie's Thrifty Boutique. She's asking, or maybe she or he is saying, does Houston have a dog leash law?
Yes, Harris County does have a leash law.
Okay.
Yes. Essentially every county has a leash law. Any major metropolitan county, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, Houston, the major places are all going to have leash laws.
So let's elaborate a little bit more. So if you're outside, you take your dog to a dog park, you take your dog to Sunday Fun Day, have to have a leash. Is that what that means?
Well, let me back you up real quick. You mentioned dog park.
Mm-hmm.
So here in Houston, there's dog parks all over the place. 610 West Park, Highway 6 near Clay. There's dog parks. If you're in a dog park area that's deemed and zoned for dogs, like those places are, your dog can be off leash. You can run around. Those are places for dogs to play, right? But they're fenced in. It's protected areas, right?
Okay.
If you're not in a dog park, but let's say you're at the Sunday Fun Day, right? You do need to have your dog on a leash. Your dog must be on a leash. Even if you're walking to the community mailbox in your neighborhood, your dog needs to be on a leash. I see it all the time. Walking in the neighborhood, somebody's walking to the mailbox, and there their dog is following right behind them without a leash.
Yes, I see it all the time too.
And the leash is not just for the protection of others, but it's also to protect the dog, right?
Right.
So what if the dog runs out into the street in front of a car and gets hit?
Right.
So the leash is there to protect others and the dog.
So if you're not in a private property of your home fenced in, leash, the dog leash law comes into effect. Unless you're in a dog park, then the dog can be freely because those are already protected.
Right.
Around.
I mean, if you're in an area where there's a sign that says you can let your dog loose here, then you can let your dog loose here. But other than that, don't let your dog loose.
I won't be going to those places.
Don't let your
there.
dog loose. That's just the best piece of advice. And if you see a loose dog, try to stay away from it.
Well, that's a great question from Angie's Thrifty Boutique. So good question. Thank you for that question. She did mention Houston. Now, I know Houston's huge. We have surrounding areas, Pearland, Sugarland, Atascocita, Cypress. These don't apply to that, right? Those have different laws, or does it kind of extend a little bit?
No, it does extend a little bit.
Okay.
A lot of those places are going to still be within Harris County, so it's going to cover the county.
Got it, the county.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, awesome. Great question. So that's awesome. I want to ask now, Attorney Donald, I have a question for you. So why is it that you chose, maybe it was a life-changing event, maybe it's something that you went through as a child, but why did you choose to become an attorney?
Why did I choose to become an attorney?
I cut you off guard, right? Disclaimer, I ask all the attorneys that come onto the show the why behind it. Some of them have a lot of life-changing experiences, or some of them just since they were little, it's been their vision and their dream. And it's always beautiful to hear the why behind it. Sure. And it's always helping people. It's always the ending line. But I wanted to hear why you wanted to become an attorney.
Well, I figured it would make my mom proud.
Okay.
That's the first one, so she could be proud of me and hey, look at my son, he's an attorney.
And so, she is proud, right?
I'm pretty sure she's proud.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's happy. So I think that was probably the most important thing,
awesome.
to make her happy, make her proud. So, and it's something I said when I was a young kid, and she kind of held me to it. And so,
that's awesome. You kept right on it, and you got that goal.
I'm here now.
Yeah,
so
you are.
Look at me. I'm on Talk to Me Tuesday
exactly.
with Mom and B. So how lucky am I?
You're so silly. No, that's great. That's awesome to hear. There was a drive behind it, and a lot of the attorneys that come on the show, there is a reason why they aspire to go to law school and get that degree. And your story is beautiful too, and it's in behalf of your mom. Make her proud. But at the end of the day, you're also helping a lot of people.
Yes. With
this specialty, I honestly, I'm learning a lot. I know you viewers are also learning some information. This is great that you can have an attorney to help you and just educate you a little bit more about of what you think is normal. You don't think you have a case. Right. We have someone here to help.
That's it's the biggest thing that we could possibly do for people, right? What do they do when they're in a life-changing situation and they've never been through something like this before?
Right.
They don't know anyone who's ever been through something like this before. This isn't something that happens every day, and so it's scary. A lot of times there's a lot of medical bills involved, and the medical bills pile up really fast. A lot of times these are life-changing injuries that require a lot of downtime to heal from.
Yeah.
So it's a lot all at once, and it's pretty stressful and traumatic. And sometimes you need help, and that's what we're here for. To sort through all the details and work to help the injured person get back to whole.
Right.
So that they don't have to worry about how am I going to get all this taken care of? How am I going to get these bills paid?
Right.
What am I going to do about, finding a doctor? What am I going to do about my lost wages?
Right.
So
which is a lot of the questions that come across whenever in a personal injury, an accident, and something. Those things run across people's head, and the stress is on another level. So we are here to alleviate a little bit of that and guide and advise those clients.
Attorneys and counselors.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
It's a reward. It's a difficult job, but it's rewarding.
Right.
Walking someone through who's been injured, walking them through the process and holding their hand essentially and helping them through is gratifying at the end.
Right. Right.
A lot of times they're happy at the end, even though it's despite the unfortunate circumstances, right. It's a happy ending a lot of times.
The journey, their story, at the end of the day, they have good results, hopefully, in whichever case. Every case is different, right?
Every case is, I saw a lot of my clients, they see things on TV and they see other, information out there. They talk to their friends and family members and they get a lot of ideas in their head. And I generally tell my clients that, you have fingerprints, right? Like, yeah, I have fingerprints. Well, so does everybody else. And they're all a little different. They're all unique, but they're all a little different, right? And so everybody's case is just a little different in some way, right? It might be similar, but.
That's a good way to put it. I'm going to use that. I'm going to take it from you. So that's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Dylan. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
Dylan is saying, who pays for damages for a dog bite? Ooh, good question.
Great question, Dylan. Generally, it's the insurance company. So we have a couple different situations. The short answer is insurance companies. Long answer is you can either have the homeowner or the renter. So they're going to have either a homeowner's insurance policy or a renter's insurance policy.
Okay.
In that context, or you're going to have a commercial insurance policy if the bite happened on a business or like at an apartment complex.
Okay, so this is a little bit different than what we spoke in the past. In the past, we talk about your insurance, your vehicle insurance card. How can they recognize just a homeowner with a dog, and recognize it should be all on there, visible, declaration page, all that good stuff, and it covers?
If most of the time, unlike car crash cases where by law everybody has to have auto insurance,
right?
Homeowners insurance and renters insurance is a little bit different,
right?
Not everybody's required to have it, so that's hurdle number one. Hurdle number two is that some insurance companies in Texas actually write exclusions into the policies. So if you have a particular breed, that might be excluded. Or if you have an injury from an animal, like a dog, it might go from the normal policy limit down to a lower policy limit because the injury happened because of an animal. So you have some different exceptions and exclusions in some policies. That's why it's good to call an attorney.
Yeah.
To deal with the details.
There's a lot of loopholes here.
Dog bite cases they're very technical, and it requires knowing the tricks and the traps that are out there.
Again, specialty attorney on dog bites. Because yes, you're right. And now my next question is, what if they don't have insurance? Could you still go after the individual? If I'm a dog owner and I have the means, is that also an option?
Great question. That is an option. You always have the option of going against the individual if you want. There are some drawbacks and limitations, but in the right context, that might be the right decision for that particular client.
Wow.
Kind of like that fingerprint
there we
thing.
Go again. There's fingerprints.
Fingerprints everywhere.
Well, I'm going to give some advice. If ever in a dog bite injury cause, anything like that, or if your dog has injured someone, the better thing to do is honestly to contact an attorney, because I did not know any of this. And I'm glad these questions are coming up. You guys are killing it on the questions today, because this is making it just very eye-opening, especially for those that have dog owners or don't. I don't, but the reason why, I'm going to tell you a little secret. So I had my stepsister got bit by a dog, and she was 12 at the time, leg. And I saw that with my own eyes. I saw the carrying, rushing to the hospital, and I am terrified of dogs. Terrified. So knowing this kind of educates me a little bit more, because I will walk the other way. If it's a little dog, okay, oh, you're cute, and then I just walk away. But I mean, have you experienced something like that, like where your passion derives from? Was there something that happened? Have you witnessed anything like that?
Well, so I've always wanted an English bulldog, right?
Okay.
I always wanted one. And when I graduated from law school and I passed the bar, I told my wife, hey, I'm getting an English bulldog. So she said, okay, fine, you can get your English bulldog. So I was so excited that I was going to get this English bulldog. But before I got my dog, I did a ton of research. Did a lot of research into what kind of dog am I getting? What am I bringing into my home? Is this breed the right type of breed for me? What kind of food does this dog eat? How much exercise does this dog need? How many times do I have to walk this dog? Do I need to get specialized training for this dog?
Wow.
What kind of medical care is this dog going to need? So I did a ton of research into what do I need to do as a dog owner to be the best I can for this particular dog, to give him the best life, to socialize him properly, right? I didn't want a 65-pound out of control bulldog.
Right. Exactly.
They're everywhere, and I didn't want that, right? And so I did a lot of research into, what do I need to do to get the end result that I want, to make sure that my dog was properly socialized, well trained, So if somebody came over to the house, he's not jumping, scratching, barking, or just being annoyance, right? We want man's best friend, not man's worst friend.
Yeah.
So there was that's kind of where a lot of my passion derived from. Because as I started working personal injury cases and started seeing the first couple dog bites come across my desk, I would open up the file and I would read it and I would look at what the dog owner a lot of times didn't do. They didn't train their dog. They didn't properly care for their dog. They didn't feed their dog right. They didn't play with their dog right. They did a lot of things that they should have done and didn't do.
Right.
So file after file, I'm seeing this and I'm starting to see a pattern. I'm like, wait a minute. So that's really where my passion comes from, is I didn't realize that was going to be something down the road. So I was doing all this research for my own self. Years later, I'm like, wait a minute, there's a connection here. So that's really where it comes from. And so I have a passion for ownership, right? I want to see dog owners that are taking responsibility for their dogs,
awesome.
Making sure that their dogs aren't running loose, making sure their dogs aren't out of control.
Right.
And so that's kind of what has helped me propel further into this industry.
That's awesome, because I will tell you, I do notice people when they buy dogs, especially some friends, oh, he's so cute, let's get him. They don't go through the extreme of what you did, which I commend you for that. Like, you don't look at the ins and outs. It's kind of having like a little child, and some of your people's pets are like their child. So
it's totally like having a child.
Yeah.
It's totally like having a child.
You know what you're getting yourself into.
That
Yeah.
It can be a slippery slope if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, so, I do. Yeah. I advise also you guys to do that. That is great. I've never heard of that. Just doing all that research, what it takes, the exercise. Even some dogs can't be in the heat. We're in Houston, Texas. Some have to be indoors. Those little things. That's great as a dog owner, what you should do to make it a better environment as well.
Well, it's not just good for the humans, but it's good for the dogs
as well. Yeah,
it's good for them.
Yeah, so. I agree. Well, right now we have Shanna Hogan. Hey, Shanna. Shanna is asking, is there a statute of limitations on dog bite incidents?
Great question, Shanna.
And then also, what is statute of limitations for those that are watching that may not know?
So statute of limitations simply is how long do we have before we can't come to the courthouse and ask for some justice, right?
Okay.
So typically in Texas, any kind of injury situation, whether it be a car crash, a dog bite, a slip and fall, you have 2 years. So from the date that you're injured, 2 years forward, that's your window of opportunity to file a lawsuit in Texas.
Okay, so 2 years.
2 years.
Now, I will ask this, and I have all these fun little questions, but what if it's not a visible injury? And what if it's a non-visible, what we just talked about, traumatic brain injury? When does the date of injury begin at that point?
Great question. I can understand the confusion if you don't realize you're injured till much later.
Right.
How do you know, right? And so in that situation, provided that particular injury is caught within the 2 years, you would still have the 2 years. You would still
Got
go
it.
back to the date that incident occurred.
Okay. So the date of the incident is a little
Right.
bit, just because there might be head trauma, this is a little bit not just visible injuries, but there's also non-visible.
Right.
So
Right.
2 years from when the date of the incident occurred. Okay,
Right.
that's awesome.
Right.
So thank you so much, Shanna, for that question. I have a comment from Danielle Stray Perez. She's saying some of the smaller dogs are more aggressive.
That's true. That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah, because literally again, here I go with my story. I'm like, oh, the little ones are cute. Go to reach. What if they bite like my whole hand? And I think I would just kick the dog. I'm not even gonna lie, but that's just me. That's crazy. Yeah, I agree.
No, it happens. It happens all the time. You'd be surprised. Pit bulls get a bad rap, but I see a lot of cases come through where the culprit is a Chihuahua or a Chiweenie or some small dog.
Wow.
That is, causing a ruckus.
Right.
The issue though is those little dogs, the damage is not as bad as when a pit bull.
Yeah.
bites.
So now I'm going to ask this question, and if you don't want to disclose it, that's fine. But is there a common breed that you have seen go through across your desk?
Surprisingly, no.
No. Okay.
No. It's been up and down. Mostly it's mixed breeds, whatever variety of mixed breeds, but it hasn't been predominantly pit bull, like most people probably believe. If anything, it might be some kind of Labrador mix. That would probably be the best, the highest average. If I had to pick one, would be a lab mix. But it spans from little ones to big ones to everything in between, and that they're it's some of the, you'd be surprised, some of the littler dogs actually have more vicious bites than some of the pit bull injuries where it's a scratch and somebody just falls down. And it's, you'd be surprised. So it's a fingerprint thing.
It's a little different because you're dealing with small and aggressive, and then the big ones you're dealing with the weight. Some of them are heavy, and when they get on their back two legs, they're I'm 5'2", taller than you, and you're oh my gosh, overpowering.
Right.
So there's just a lot of scenarios. Of course, here we go with every case is different.
Right.
Now I know we're talking specifically about dogs, but could this be applying to just an animal in general? Could it be cat bite? Could it be a horse bite? I don't know. Sky's the limit around here.
Right. No, great question. We don't have a cat specific statute like what we do with leash laws for dogs and things like that.
Okay.
There's not a lot of jurisprudence court cases on injuries from cats, but essentially the same law applies. If something happens as a result of a cat scratches you or you're injured by a cat, yes, the same rules still apply as far as holding the owner responsible for the medical bills, lost wages, scars, whatever the case is. So Now regarding the other animals like a horse and some of the other animals, depending upon the type of animal is going to determine the type of liability. Obviously wild animals, nobody's going to be responsible for anything like that. Now farm animals and such are going to be under different rules, and those are pretty rare circumstances, but the same rules still will apply.
Wow, we just opened up a whole new door here. Yeah. So
it is a whole new door.
Yeah. So Daniel Stray Perez is saying, also comments additional to the smaller dogs, working for the post office, some issues are mentally traumatic, not just physical injuries.
Yeah. No, Dan, you're absolutely right. A high percentage of all of our clients that we've helped over the years have suffered from some form of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
They have nightmares, flashbacks. They become a little anxious when they hear a dog bark or when they see a dog. So the mental injuries are sometimes more significant than the physical injuries.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure whenever taking this to trial or to court, that's something that they have to see, the big picture of the total injuries. But yes, mental, traumatic, and I know we mentioned this a little bit earlier, traumatic brain injury, concussions can come, just being stressed out about if you've had an injury before. All of those are part of it.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
And I know Daniel was commenting also prior to the show. So this is not just during the show, but also prior. So I want to thank you, Daniel.
Thank you,
Daniel works for the U.S. Postal Service.
Thank you for your service, sir. Be safe out there.
Thank you. And he said he gets attacked from time to time. I myself was attacked by a pit bull before. So, and maybe we could talk a little bit more about that. I mean, from time to time, that sounds like more than one, Daniel. So
sounds pretty scary.
Yeah. And how would that work on the postal? Because you know the address. Maybe, I mean, sky's the limit. Let's just say it's FedEx. You have to deliver certain packages. U.S. Postal, you have to deliver. It's not like you're delivering actual mail. But what rights do they have?
Well, Mario, I'm glad you brought that question up. I know it's been, I know we've worked together for a long time, the Willumsen and Donal Law Firm. And we actually had a case like this years ago where a delivery guy from FedEx went to somebody's house to go deliver a package. He enters the property. As he's getting closer to the door, the dog owner's dog comes racing from the side of the house.
Oh.
Now, naturally, the delivery guy, he got nervous. And he hears this big dog that's coming after him. He backs up, trips and falls, hurts his back and bumps his head.
Oh.
Now, the dog never bit him. The dog stopped right before, just barked. But nonetheless, our delivery guy fell and hurt his back. So in that situation, when you have somebody like a postal worker or a delivery guy, or heck, the guy delivering the pizza, whoever it may be, not just necessarily the package delivery guy, they have what's considered an implied invitation, meaning that the homeowner has impliedly invited them to come over to deliver that package. And because of that implied invitation, they get a certain protection under the law, that they have a right to be there. So sometimes you have the dog owner saying, hey, you didn't have a right to be here. You shouldn't have been on my property. My dog would have never bit you.
Oh, my gosh.
You hear that a lot, right? You do. So in that situation, you'd be protected under an implied invitation theory that, hey, well, I had a right to be here because I'm doing you a favor by delivering this package.
Yeah.
I can leave it down the street if you want, but I don't think you'd like that.
Yeah, then they'll be mad because why did you leave it down the street?
Exactly.
So, Daniel, I do want to follow up with you, and if you can keep putting up comments and how this is applied to you, maybe we can send you a private direct message later to see how we can help you. It sounds like you're still currently working there, but we can help.
Absolutely.
We just need a little bit more details as to helping the situation. So
just need a phone number and we'll give you a call.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll send you that direct message following this show here. So we have another one. This is Sabrina. Sabrina's, what if another dog injured my dog? Dog versus dog.
Dog on dog. Great question, Sabrina. This is another situation that unfortunately happens a lot. It happens a lot. So in Texas, essentially the rule is that your dog is property, right? So whatever the value of that property is, that's the max value of the dog.
Wow. Okay.
Now, maybe your dog has a particular specialty. It's something that's unique about this particular dog. That's going to cause the value of the dog to go up if the dog is actually killed in a dog fight.
Right.
But let's say the worst doesn't happen and that maybe the dog is just injured, and you have medical bills because you have to take your dog to the vet.
Right, and those are not cheap.
No, they mount quickly.
Yeah.
They mount very quickly. And so in that situation, you would have all of your vet bills for your dog, and the dog owner whose dog caused the bills essentially is going to be responsible for paying those bills.
Wow.
So the dog owner, whoever owned the bad biting dog is going to be on the hook for all those vet bills.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sabrina, for that question. And I know sometimes maybe a dog incident happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know the owner of the dog.
Yeah.
You feel bad. I don't want to do this because I know that's my friend. That's their dog.
Yeah.
Like, have you experienced those difficult situations as well?
That's something that dog incidences, injuries from dog incidences are so different than your typical car crash where you don't know the other person.
Right.
It's just a stranger on the street, right? You don't have to have Thanksgiving with that person.
Right.
A lot of times when you have a dog incident, you have Thanksgiving with the owner, right? It might be grandma or it might be your favorite uncle. And so, because of that unique dynamic that's always present in a dog bite scenario, at least at our firm, what we try to do is minimize additional stress by having a lawyer involved, right? How do we do that? The best way to do that is to deal directly with the insurance company of the dog owners. Don't even worry about trying to fight with the dog owner, get involved with the dog owner, and make it worse.
Right.
It's bad enough. Most likely, they probably feel bad in the first place that the injury happened. But do we really need to keep fighting about it and make it worse than it is? So what we often instruct our clients and advise our clients is, hey, go ahead and get treated, get better, and then let us handle the insurance side of it, so that you let the insurance professionals handle it and you let me handle it, and we handle the details so that the family doesn't have to continue to fight and the family can heal.
Yeah, that allows also de-escalating the situation.
De-escalating is absolutely the key to these things, because
being
it
in
gets
arguments
massive,
over
and not just family but neighbors. You see a lot of times where you have neighbors where a dog does something and all of a sudden the neighbor relationship is fractured, right? And the last thing you want to do is come home and see your neighbor outside and get into a tiff with your neighbor, right? And so it's not a good thing.
And we've seen some of those scenarios here is once we find out, okay, who's the dog owner? Okay, what's the insurance or the information, they feel bad. However, there is injuries. There was one that had a broken ankle from it and felt bad. So how would you handle that? Which is good that you de-escalate the situation.
If the dog owner is cooperative and has some remorse and wants to see the injured person get better, a lot of times the dog owner will provide the information, whether it's some vet records to show that the dog is up to date on its shots and immunizations and vaccines, and also provide insurance information to say, hey, we have such and such insurance, call my adjuster. So sometimes we find those situations where the dog owner wants to help, and the best way is to have the injured, hey, ask the dog owner, can you give me the information? Sometimes that doesn't work. We have other avenues that we use that I've developed over the years that I use to get the information without causing further disruption and, like you said, de-escalate the situation. My whole aim is to get the information without escalating and causing more problems for everybody.
I see. So again, at the end of the day, it's better just to have an attorney involved, having them really look, de-escalate the situation, get the information needed, and give all the knowledge behind of what the rights are, right?
Sounds like you got it.
So we have time for, I believe, a couple more questions. This is Tiffany. Hey, Tiffany. Tiffany saying, how long do I have after a dog bites me to find representation?
Well, great question. That would essentially, you have your 2-year statute of limitation window, right? So it's kind of the same idea that now I wouldn't recommend waiting that long, but obviously you have 2 years. So after 2 years, no attorney can help you. Before 2 years, some attorneys can help you.
So of course, what we like to say, of course, the sooner the better. That way you can just get a hand over the situation sooner than later. However, they do have the 2 years in the state of Texas.
Right.
Every state is different, right?
Every state is different.
Disclaimer, because I know
we're talking just about Texas.
Yes, nationwide. We do nationwide cases. In the case that we do, let's just say Louisiana, Chicago, then you guys get the statute of limitations for that state or what.
That's correct.
There might be different even laws. So.
Well, yes, I mean, every county, every venue, every jurisdiction is going to have something different. It goes back to the fingerprint thing.
There we go again.
The fingerprints. The fingerprints.
Yeah, so that's awesome to kind of hear how all this pans out. But no, that's great. You do have 2 years, Tiffany. So again, the sooner the better. Don't let that 2 years run out. And I want to ask Attorney Donald, what kind of injuries have you seen? Have you seen just like deep injuries, scratches to where they're needing stitches? Nothing that will need probably recovery unless it's a surgery, right? Like post-surgery type of stuff.
It's we've seen some pretty horrific stuff.
Yeah.
There's been some pretty nasty maulings over the years where people get, facial lacerations, 300 plus stitches on the facial area, the little kids getting torn up. It's been pretty much Life Flight has been involved in some of the
wow.
instances where a minute ago you were talking about the size of a dog. We actually had a case a couple of years ago where we represented a client who was attacked by a bull mastiff. So that dog just, when it's standing on all fours is about this big. When it's standing on its hind legs is over 6 feet tall. Came after this client, and she ended up going to Life Flight, and fortunately she made it. But there's been some pretty nasty injuries over the years.
That's awesome to hear that she made it. But we're thinking the dog bite, like, a little bite, but these can be severe injuries.
Yeah, I mean, dog bites can be extremely severe. I mean, if the dog punctures the wrong vein or whatever, it can be really nasty and it can be really difficult. I mean, if you get the nerve injuries, then it can cause problems with, your extremities and, functioning and numbness and tingling on into the future, and even lack of range of motion and mobility and flexibility. And so, I mean, the range of injuries is amazing. And, a lot of times when you have a mauling, clients try to defend themselves, right, from the dog. And what you get a lot of times are a lot of bites on the hands, forearms, wrists, things like that. And when you have your dominant hand ripped up by a dog, imagine trying to sign your name every day. Right. Or just live life with with a hand that's not working. Yeah. So you see that a lot.
So not only are you knowledgeable about the law, the injuries, but you also have to be knowledgeable about the breeds as well.
Yes.
Certain breeds, what they've done, etc.
Right. All dogs are different. All breeds are different. All breeds were meant to do different things. Right. For example, I have an English Bulldog. He's good for laying around. He's not good for running. He's not good for exercise. He's not good for swimming, right?
He's definitely a man's best friend, right?
He's good for hanging out, sitting on the couch. He's my football watching buddy.
Oh,
right?
That's awesome.
That's what we do. That's why I got him. I didn't want a dog that's going to make me run 10 miles a day because that's not what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's what it goes back to, about knowing the type of breed that you're dealing with, knowing the breed characteristics, understanding what makes certain breeds do what.
That's interesting. That's a lot of knowledge. I commend you for that as well. So we have time for one more question. This one's Michael. Michael's saying another delivery story. I was delivering a package and there was no beware of dog sign. I was bit on my calf. Is this a claim?
Yes, absolutely, Michael.
Yeah, so
give us a call.
We'll definitely follow up, but give us a call. Yeah. I know we mentioned a little bit more on the delivery aspect a little earlier, but yeah, he definitely has a claim. Do they have to have a sign that says beware of dog? No. Okay, well, there we go. So if you are in delivery, or if you are in the vicinity and there's no beware of dog, you still can give us a call.
Right. Now, don't listen to the insurance company, because they'll lie to you and they'll tell you whatever it is to make you think that you don't have a claim. That if there's a beware of dog sign, well, you knew and shouldn't have gone back there, or there was no beware of dog sign, so we had no idea anything was going to happen. So, the insurance company will tell you a lot of different things so that they're not responsible. But at the end, that's not the system of justice that we live in the United States. We believe if something happens, then you should be taken care of and reimbursed for whatever happened to you. Right? Yeah. And that's what we're here for, to get justice for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just like any other personal injury, accident, or claim, if the insurance provider's involved, the best rule of thumb is giving us a call, and letting the attorneys handle it.
That's what we do every day.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go out to a nice dinner, you find a nice restaurant. You don't try to cook it at home.
Right.
Unless you're like Emerald, right? Unless you're like Emerald, or some celebrity chef.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's awesome. We appreciate your knowledge.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure to have you here.
It's been a lot of fun today.
Yeah, it was so much fun. It went by like this, right? I told you. So what I ask all attorneys that come on to Talk to Me Tuesday is, what type of either quotes or closing statements, as you guys like to say, would you like to leave our viewers with today?
Socialize your dogs. Focus on the breed, research, understand what you have.
Yeah.
Socialize your dogs properly.
Yeah, that's great advice. Knowing all those questions. If you guys missed it, go rewind on the show, because he mentioned what he did as a dog owner to find out a little bit about the dog before purchasing the dog. The all ins and outs, that is a great recommendation. So again, it's a pleasure to have you guys
Thank
here.
you.
We love doing business with you. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Until next time, Talk to Me Tuesday. I'm your host, Mari B, and Attorney Donal McRoberts. Bye.